Good evening and welcome to DIA. This is our Readings in Contemporary Poetry series. My name is Megan Whitko and I'm one of our curatorial associates here. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to our final poetry reading of the season. Our Readings in Contemporary Poetry series was reinstated in 2011 in a partnership with the series curator, Vincent Katz. And our monthly readings highlight commonalities amongst poets and bring their work into a larger conversation with one another. So it's my great pleasure tonight to welcome our two poets for the evening, Charles Borkhuis and Ariana Reines. Thank you both for graciously accepting to be a part of the series. I also want to thank the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, who generously supports the series and helps make these evenings at DIA possible. And we always want to give a special thank you to the Brooklyn Brewery, who donate the complimentary cold beverages, and also to the entire DIA staff, who helps make these evenings possible, and for kindly helping coordinate this program. So before I turn things over to Vincent, I just want to give you a short layout for the evening. After our first reader, we take about a 10-minute intermission, and you can check out the book cart. We have books for sale by both poets, and you can also get a second beer if you're feeling that, and we'll resume with our second speaker after that. So it's now my pleasure to welcome Vincent Katz, who will be introducing the first poet for the evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Megan, and thank you all for coming. As Megan noted, this is our final reading of the season. And so please check the website or get on the mailing list for the fall readings. Find out when they're going to start up. And we always like to end the season with a bang, so we thought that these two poets know how to work the stage and they could really do it. So Ariana Reines will read first, and then we'll have a short break, and then Charles Borkhuis. Ariana Reines is the author of The Cow, Coeur de Lion, first published 2007, second edition 2011, and Mercury 2011, all published by Fence Books. Her play Telephone was presented at the Cherry Lane Theater in February 2009 and won 2 Obie Awards. In 2009, Reines became Roberta C. Holloway Lecturer in Poetry at the University of California at Berkeley. Ariana's poetry is deceptive. Sometimes she seems to just be talking, and a lot of that is talking trash about herself, her boyfriend, other people. There are poems of invective that follow a tradition going back at least as far as Archilochus. But then she has these sweeter, more undefended moments, such as the opening to her poem, Salve. Quote, "St. Clair had flaxen hair they keep in a glass boat in Italy. Keats had hair that is also in Italy. St. John's hair was shorn. She wore a hat of flames." End of quote. Then Ariana has these transformational moments that remind one of the early rants of Patti Smith channeling Rimbaud. The belief that suffering and doing every possibly vulgar thing to one's body will result in spiritual transcendence. Simultaneously, Ariana's poetry is outsourced. Her accomplishment is pilfering from Ashbery, Burroughs, Celan, Cixous, Proust, Rilke, Stein, etc., and making it sound like Reines. Ariana has scoured the depths, and that has earned her a place in a certain constellation. As Allen Ginsberg wrote when Kerouac was jealous of his ecstasis, "It's hard to eat shit and not have visions." But there's another stream in Ariana's writing, particularly in Mercury, and it may be there, after a while, she is headed. In Zero, a poem about her grandparents and mother, she writes, quote, "Life I love in me, I do, you, luster of this world that fills me. I complete my own picture by knowing how to stay in the frame." End of quote. Ariana Reines is going places, and tonight we get to follow along. Please help me welcome her to DIA.
Thank you so much, Vincent. I don't know what more vulgar thing one could do than with one's body than give a poetry reading. So, please excuse me while I unfold my things. It's very, very exciting to have the chance to read in this series. I wish to dedicate this reading to the memory of Jimmy Schuyler, and I'd like to start by reading a tiny piece of the Hymn to Life. Stopped passages unblock. Why let the lovely spring, its muck and scarlet emperors, get you down? Unhibernate. Let the rain soak your hair, run down your face, hang in drops from facial protuberances. Face into it, then towel dry. Then another day brings back the sun and violets in the grass. I'm going to read newer things, and I may stop here and there to talk a bit. And as I always say, you can stop me if you want to talk to me as I go. And you'll notice a lot of blue and red. Oh, somebody's cake is ready. I'm glad we're in time. This might be called the red badge of courage. I was asleep with another. I saw as I slept, you wrote me a burning letter. Notice I have made him the other, whereas here, in this small room, I've left you your place. But I will never send you this, because of not exactly my cowardice, but the sense that what I might say of what I saw is really the property of someone else. I was asleep with another. I saw as I slept, you wrote me a burning letter. Notice I have made him the other, whereas here in this small room I've left you your place. But I will never send you this, because of not exactly my cowardice, but the sense that what I might say of what I saw is really the property of someone else. Then love was being made to me. So hard and long, I started to lose my mind. A soul-splitting feeling arrived at the bottommost base of the good, from where something heretofore unreachable in my feeling for you was dislodged, and your name, like gold paint streaming down my blackness, expressed itself on me as tears. I saw the moon waning over the bridge. The fat moon was waning over the bridge. The moon was hanging over the lighted bridge. The moon was waning over the bridge. I saw the moon waning over the bridge. I saw the moon waning over the bridge, my heart. I saw the fat moon waning over the bridge. I saw it rock back like a cradle. I saw it rock back like an empty nutshell. The moon was waning over the bridge when I saw it. What I saw when I saw it rock back like a cradle. What I saw when I saw it fall open like a cord fruit. What I saw clutching my black crystal claw, my intergalactic claw, my most recent thing. Then we went together to Gibraltar. I saw it slanting out of me. You fell asleep with your laptop on your belly, while I was put into a car with a woman called Teresa. We rode over the icy fields, glassy green like the innards of a computer. If I lose my power, if I lose my power, if I lose my power, if I lose my head, now that the prong is sticking me, being lost among the people, sweating at the mouth of the port, it is my fault I got erupted. It was my responsibility. Gray, black, and green garbage bags stuffed, I wished, with leaves, a tender filament of woodgrass. When I lay on the boulder, I heard a woodpecker. I remember when you cried at Christmas. I remember when you said you loved me so much. You will say, and I will say, the waving wheat smelled sweet. You will say, what does the moon mean? Anybody can look it up. Meaning it is more a matter of choosing how to mean what we see. So purposefully, when it is time, I was swept away. The moon looked exactly like heartache to me, a fat heart gulping down its own pebbles and keys. You make me so happy. How can I write it down? Your eyelashes are like brushes. I have to line up my lazy eye with a narrow arrow. The spirit is easily scared away, bleached asphalt like a wick in the office park. I'm afraid the spirits will fly out of my head. They will drool from my mouth in oil black declamations. When the trees shake and when my hair shakes, when the sweat pools in the seam of my spine, when I decline. When I look in your eyes like a giant black boar, ice shagged in her hair, the ancient choir of fuck squirrels says, ah. The dark furred things put the fingers of their gray nimble hands upon the carbuncle, upon the jewel, the apple of my eye. It is our right. We hunt at night. Our black eyes shine. Our rough tongues keep us clean. Cream fell in clots out of me. There went my health. The moon was listing to one side. I pictured somebody driving a car, a life through a window to petrify me. When you are looking at me, it really means something to me, although I am in default. There's a crowd of pigeons murmuring. They are cooing in the air shaft like doves. Chrome sky slick against the world, etched by the fire that is willing to kill me, it said, but only slowly, but only slowly, but only every once in a while when it lets me sleep. Gentle, gentle, soft, black, rubbing thing. Gentle, gentle, soft, black, rubbing thing. A dip in the mouth, a water, a lint, a glass of water, a dip in the mouth, a soft pull. It is like a sigh, my sight, warm in the middle. When you put it in the middle, where you put it, we could be putting a small sleep. We could be putting a small sleep into it. A drive to a place could be put into it. We could have put a small secret into it, into the sleep stall, which is an ashwood culvert, which is a drum made of copper, which is a drum filled with oil. Horse, come to charge my life, fat tooth ripped out when you gnaw the iced rocks. Whose house is this? In the mouth of the dead cataract, the smoking chimneys at the refinery. I know they are my responsibility, the telephone towers when we are looking at the sky waiting to be taken alone. All those furniture stores filled with despair. It was like green frozen places, snow on the motherboards. It was snowing, but it was sunny. The sun through the windshield flocked with salt and watermarks. When the sun is moving through the shadows that are passing, I met a woman called Teresa. She was a Jew in the continental style. She was melancholy, poised, and closed, like a pearl on a bed in a box. Unbudgeted, sweet endlessness, unjealous perfection. I could smell the black earth, I could put it in my hands, I could eat the apple of my eye. 12th Night. The dog lifts its leg and pisses on the door frame. The white is torn from the flag, triumphal. My mistress will see you now. I saw her once in a strip mall, on a patio, in a slimming foundation garment. It felt colonial, it felt abandoned. She was heating a frozen dinner, her movements exquisitely refined. A woman who had been so neglected, I was scared to gaze upon her softness, like the gentleness of everyone not made cruel for being unloved. It was like the twisting of a dove. It is when the bird flutters at the back of your throat. It is very, very sensitive. Double grapes, belly split down the middle like a busted fig. No moon, no night saw. Unbelievable hunger when you have to drink the medicine raw, when a green gas curdles your guts, but at least it grants you total surrender, unlike love, for example. In Leogan, I get hit by a truck. I can't tell you about it. It depresses the back of my tongue and stiffens there to make me puke, the sun like raw yolk under which I'd like to finally get off my knees, like a shaded green room from which trees are visible, an empty green room in the emperor's house, which is like a hospital, which is a magic chapel, which is a secret place. For a year they have been building the road alongside it. Any person can go there. Rafaela said, I think to be a poet is a very beautiful thing, because a poet wants to be right, but does not want to win. And that is a very strange thing. That is a strange and beautiful thing. It is like a brick in my guts when I am always the maid of the house, when I live on the floor in the kitchen and I have to talk to the terrible lady who rules the kitchen, and I have to keep her iron candlesticks, and I have to light the black candles to calm her, and I have to be the one to talk to her, me, it has to be me. And when I do it, while I am doing it, I can always handle it, but always after and always before, the memory of her, the anticipation of her is like a lead, and my heart shudders with dread, and I am made dowdy by my exhausting work, and I get used to sleeping on the floor. The blue slate receives my cheek like a cool mastaba on a silver pool, and I have been pressing down on my heart for so long that it is now rectangular. A large gold bar, a brick of Algerian hash. I love that bell. Ding, stop that. What is that from? What? I mean, the ding, stop that. It's from my childhood. All right, it's not the elevator, it's from my childhood. Have you ever been a fool? I cannot describe my love. Have you ever been a fool, been a fool, been a fool? Have you ever ridden in a taxi? Have you ever stood and ordered a coffee? Have you ever seen a tree fall against another? Have you seen the trees shining in mediocre night? Have you ever seen a river of garbage? Have you ever seen a ravine filled with the things of man? Have you ever seen a purple palm at the end of the day? I had to pass through all these severed chambers. I was repeating the words all the way through. They got me through, but when I was out, it was no longer possible to see their power. And anyway, when I was out, I forgot them. But sometimes the heavy feeling comes, the sinking feeling. I have to go through again. If I could get to the grove of white birches, to be like a secret bird, semen and bouillon, my face full of pussy and chapped metallic lips, tongue fat with use, and then to have to go again to that country, and again to that country, and again. Have you ever been a fool? Have you ever been a fool? Maybe I will talk to you. I cannot describe my love. So do I lean in after my own fall and against it. I might need another beer before this is all over. The War on April. This is the song that doesn't end. Bright with riches, white with remorse, vitiating your demises, muffining them into the breakfasts that churn on the vitamin-fat tongue of the swallower. So the sun pours down its liquor to redden my greenish-white thighs as my father's beard is spangled with raspberry buds, little blood bladders, for he's demolishing a turnover in the ripening melon of my wee memory, where he also is dying, for I know not he. Absolving brains, smashing pumpkins, bags of bugles, bags of 1960s balloons on pegs and holes on squares of yellowing foam core where I leave me now to languish over your Canadian bacon-like cheek. It's a wet brown dick and it's chirping like a bird. I spit on it. Wow, amazing arousal, like oil mussed gulls, downily flitting, expiring on a tire, half exposed in the sand, which too is wet and fretful. This is the song that doesn't end. First I put on my helmet, then I took it off. Owning everything I did not possess, I said, "Son of Sam," like a stripper's blister oozing undetected within her mule's embrace. Golden dogs were trotting, armaments of the jolly. I died before I ever remembered to make the document called Jolie Laide. Was it because I got too busy just being a woman for once? I mean, delivering myself like a dresser drawer, offering herself up to the stoutness of her camarade, tidy and full of the things of his beauty. He said yes a little too easily, but okay, I'll say yes to you too. Singed broccoli florets of my heart, burnt caramels, as though I cared for foreign words in italics. I do not. Or for engines, bruises, turning colors, rifling the docks, none shall open. But a horsey wind down from the Alps will one day come to comb back their hair and whisper vile things in their unhearing ear without the brains behind these muzzles ever knowing anything about it. For they eat only the weeds that they behead. Go to your room. I like that too. I like that phone. I always wish I could have that. Oh, thank you. You're a great man. Perfect timing. I always wanted that cell phone ring, the little piano one. It's so nice and gentle. Forgive me, I'm now going to read to you from my phone. So, as I mentioned, there's a lot of blue and some red, and also some Massachusetts here tonight. This is called Wellfleet. Sylvia Plath calls it beautiful Nauset, right? And all I remember about Wellfleet was all the dumpsters said Nauset on them. It was a Plathy moment. For me, it was. Wellfleet. It is such a silence that its gloss would take forever, like a face whose sun is a con, like the veil warmed by this self-same con, like 7 veils each on the 7 gay pillars rubbed down with creamsicles and attar of rose. Maybe I want to end it. What I mean is I want to see it raised, like a Z hissing through white underpants hot with spit, many Z's and vermeil Z's from cartoon sleeps when your body says drugs, when the sun drops its goo down your vents and the more you lick them, the more the speakers hiss. And that's like adulthood. When I pried open your ass, I smelled the fried chicken you'd eaten. Or when our fuck was like a Greek coin and I yearned to fall down and worship. Or how myrrh smells like shit, exactly like sweet shit on fire. Is it active enough to be itself? He chortled, rubbed with herbs. The sky was vapid and seething. All morning I had no money, the entire quarter consumed in such silence. Its steps and the stoops of its steps consumed tuned in such glacial silence, I knew it was the sound of slowness to which the air itself was palpably, even as we walked through it, capitulating. Just a ripple shaking down its pole when the belly really is the middle, it has its own navel. Your belly softening under its navel, the sun whitening down from the stars that tickle a spider's legs into the anxiety, which becomes her murder, her absolute form. I mean, this state. I was born in it, and having returned to it, can only think the only thing that makes any sense is to have come out of it never to return. Here is a ticket. It is an ancient ticket. It is about 50 years old. Do you think it's still good? It depends. When snow blankets the pass, our days spun to particles that shine even when we hate them, just like everyone else's, like this extreme fineness did not just happen. It was made by an asshole who took, and it is like freedom. It is like freedom sometimes. It is so big, too big not to be grand. But it is not grand, but it is so big. This embraced you from all sides like the gelid god it was, with its zapping clitoral elves by the 100, 10, 100 billion thousands in a hiss of clean soda water, accomplishing turnings, acclaimable feats, tricking on the dusky loom of Kabir, means-wrought ends achieved in absolute butts and total finishes that bury your face in blooms, gushing dickhole tears that once you've dealt them, you've smelt them, and once you've done that, it's like you took their smell away. But you didn't mean to. You're a nice person. Like when it's too raw to be free, but that's freedom. When uvular clots spewing yogurt and minerals in a sea of boiled wool still has a winner, even though it sounds equal. Just because it sounds equal, it has a winner, and its winner is me. I mean, like when you're sucking the pit of the peach until your tongue is sore, until your tongue is tonsured, until you've swallowed your tonsured tongue, swallowed Beowulf's, Maccabees, the trick that the moon is small. Like, why don't you get that it's only a trick that the moon is small? Actual men near like the moon, are there any? The moon is hung at the end of a dark arm. Over us, a warm arm. Our arm. And it, from where we are, is equal to the sun, and it does matter where we are. It matters where we are. It puts a cloud of ink in my jelly. In the dew gels now everywhere cropping up on the shoals, it runs like razors along the sides of a school of fish, slicing your forelegs open in the sea, which is not a sea but the ocean. At its outermost, where the lords, which are only shoulders athwart heads, all bemossed and in concert, turn toward the edge where the sun dips under. Which under? When it's hard to swallow. The seat of the first end to a day where the throat closes and gags on the sun. Mountains unbegrimed, but submerged, but still retaining their heads. When the sun dips below the row at the outermost lip of the world. And when the copper-colored humped back of the part of the universe we can see from there, obviously copulating with its other unseen regions, which it obscures with its heaving. When the copper-colored humped back of the part of the universe we can see from there uncoils like the thing that shot pain into your friend's head when he thought it was love he was making and that was his load he was going to get to be blowing. When the copper-colored humped back of this side of the copulating universe uncoils and unbends and sighs its very long milk sighs of years by the 100,000 millions eddying into pools at the edge of the eye of the lucky one. When its ducts are sucked for the buds that hurt when they give. The sky, the blue line drawn at the top of the page by the 4-year-old, the blue line drawn by the boy representing the sky, might be seen for once to be where it is, also under us. So I had the fortune to attend an event at the Dia in Beacon last week for Carl Andre, and I noticed afterward, I noticed it while it was happening, but I didn't think of it, but afterward I noticed that many people were wearing blue. Many people were in blue, and I thought about it, and I wondered, was it because the invitation was blue? And is that like a thing when you receive an invitation of a certain color, do people just know to wear that color? And maybe I thought that could have been, and he wears these blue overalls, and I thought perhaps it was an homage to that blue, but it really felt almost like, you wouldn't wear red to the Democratic National Convention, I mean, you wouldn't. Why would you do that? It would be like a thing. And but of course, when I received the invitation, I thought, obviously, I have no money, so why in the world would they want me to go? And I also thought, this is going to be fun. But naturally, when you're a deranged poet who does the abject thing of doing this, and with your body, reading poems in front of people, which I think is, you can eat shit and go to God or whatever, but this is really the degree 0. You should try it. That's why I'm wearing sacrificial white. I thought, this is some kind of mystic dare. And either a person is daring me or it's a dare from God. I wasn't gonna be like Medea Benjamin, as much as I admire her. I wasn't gonna go code pink and throw blood or wear a red dress or something. But I thought I had such a good time, and then afterward, I thought there was a lot of blue, and what is the meaning of blue? What is the meaning of red? What does it mean? And I thought a lot about the Haitian flag. The story about the Haitian flag is that when they won their revolution against the French in 1804, they ripped the white out of the French flag and sewed the red and blue back together. The red for the earth and the blue for the heavens, the red for the woman and the blue for the man. I began to attempt to write something, and I will read it to you now, but before I read it, I will read you John Ashbery's definition of blue. I found it instructive, and it is so peaceful to be instructed. It's a peaceful feeling. Definition of blue. The rise of capitalism parallels the advance of Romanticism, and the individual is dominant until the close of the 19th century. In our own time, mass practices have sought to submerge the personality by ignoring it, which has caused it instead to branch out in all directions, far from the permanent tug that used to be its notion of home. These different impetuses are received from everywhere and are as instantly snapped back, hitting through the cold atmosphere in one steady, intense line. There is no remedy for this packaging, which has supplanted the old sensations. Formerly, there would have been architectural screens at the point where this action became most difficult, as a path trails off into shrubbery, confusing, forgotten, yet continuing to exist. But today there is no point in looking to imaginative new methods, since all of them are in constant use. The most that can be said for them further is that erosion produces a kind of dust or exaggerated pumice which fills space and transforms it, becoming a medium in which it is possible to recognize oneself. Each new diversion adds its accurate touch to the ensemble, and so a portrait, smooth as glass, is built up out of multiple corrections, and it has no relation to the space or time in which it was lived. Only its existence is a part of all being, and is therefore, I suppose, to be prized. Beyond chasms of night that fight us by being hidden and present. I'll repeat that. Beyond chasms of night that fight us by being hidden and present. And yet it results in a downward motion, or rather a floating one, in which the blue surroundings drift slowly up and past you to realize themselves someday, while you, in this netherworld that could not be better, waken each morning to the exact value of what you did and said, which remains. More trees had opened. I marveled that they had extracted enough of use from the soil and rain to produce such an unblemished odor of purity. It convinced me toward the future, and the hope that flooded me as I inhaled its fragrance maddened my heart with desire. And yet I found myself searching the new leaves for flaws. And just as I realized that I was doing what I was doing, I discovered some. A few clusters among the freshly opened buds looked singed, as though born directly into the autumn of life. The girl has received a letter bearing the vermeer of me to witness, a light-giving tender toward the good to which the strings of all our hearts do play. I loosened mine, I tuned them down, and adultly tried what it would be like to lie, as on a festal day in early spring. I stopped watching everything. I stopped seeming anything to heaven but the bowhead figure that had to be kept alive, vaguely woman-like valve through which what remained of my soul could suck small life. Waking in the Blue by Robert Lowell. Voyage in the Blue by John Ashbery, our father. At times the sky, at night the States is gray. At times the sky, at night the States is gray. Black bag in a tree, sparrow furrowing lightly the day. I thought those were owls, but what they were, he said, were mourning doves. Sulking pigeons, sucking doves, when blood would fall. If only our hair did not suck it up to the glory at the tops of our trees, as once the moon waned for us. You covered your door in black leather. I rubbed my blood on your leather door. My heart swung naked on its own black tree. The songs were revolving like ancient women gathering fuel in vacant lots. In the storm they named after my mother. At times, it causes me to tremble. For I was there. I was there. The Christ was screwed into the heavens, fastened in the blue to die there above us. Suppose it still remains to us to reckon the fall. It would only prove how little, after all, of this culture has gone in all these years out the window. It must be up to us, women, to reckon the fall once and for all, now at all costs, especially since there are so few men who can speak. Where is my copy of Les Guerrières? I gave it to Chris backstage at the Guggenheim in 2009, but there is still time. It is still time. What became of the blood of the 70s? How brown did it dry in ferric me? And where are the snows of last winter? I was looking for a woman to bury my darkness in, when our drapes fell one upon the other like night curtains fluttering, their empty sleeves over the porny veil prolapsed into the dream in which I kept my one good eye fixed on a delight beyond all picturing. I was looking for a woman to bury my darkness in, when our drapes fell one upon the other like night curtains fluttering their empty sleeves over the porny veil, prolapsed into the dream in which I kept my one good eye fixed on a delight beyond all picturing, whose poem, a fistful of earth, the word retrieved from a mountain, can be told but never read. I'm supposed to know what I think, lingering over the regrets in my instrument. Love clapped cataclysmically, iron sheets, fer dans notre cœur, as I might someday close a letter to you with the exhortation that you agree, the formal you, to the expression of my distinguished sentiments. Sheets now resounding through winds I could not write. A night with two pillars, invoices parodying the mystery of rigor and mercy, palming only a narrow, very narrow margin of sleep. Blood was what falls and is, what can I say as it falls from me now? Red woman sent down by the blue, as when the last drop is sucked down, the last drop of my calm, my maddened bastard blood. Almost finished. Maybe now's a good moment to check in. You all look healthy and handsome. Dream house. The pavilion has walls of rug when I'm a knight with blood foaming out my chainmail. So I lie down on my cot in the cool darkness, and when I close my eyes, the falcon's alight on my page's glove. I'm fine to die in here, chills seeping into my bones, cold spring like a Carpaccio painting. I fold my arms to compose myself like a coffin-lid knight, a crypto knight, I mean a dreamer. I mean a man who doesn't exist with his rock-hard sword standing up forever. Foi portée, honneur gardé. Since I was 17, I've been dreaming I'm the maid in a house, a wide house in the mountains, and I'm a Victorian maid, a domestic, I'm asthmatic, consumptive, like Chopin or Proust, and I'm honest and servile, not artistic or cruel, and not clumsily dressed. I'm ugly, in the simple way of having been made so by my servitude, and not in the unsimple way of having pursued what I pursued as a, so to speak, free woman. Do you remember the days of slavery? I do. I am wan and dowdy, and I sleep on the floor. Once in the dream, the house belonged to my father, and a man said to me in his Schweizerdeutsch accent, "And now that you have entered the house of your father." I remember the ice of a nearish glacier seeming to steam against the blue sky. One's eyes grow hard and gem-like in the Alps, not that I'm from there, not even close. Still, in the Alps, even especially, the dull-witted develop raptor eyes. My grandmother worked as the maid to a duchess in Warsaw while her husband was gassed at Treblinka. Then the duchess died, and she, my mother's mother, had to find a new way to hide. Hide life is a phrase I've read somewhere, in a poem maybe. I keep wishing I were writing about tents, walls of rug, walls of yak felt, yurts, lying awake in my friend's mother's bed, thinking the teeth in my head, while my heart flared bios. How could any woman bear the rhythm, what it takes to sustain biological life? I was naked except for culture, like everybody else in my generation. I come from a broken home like they do, and I hide it, acting serene at the joystick in the command station of my so-called self, except I try openly to hide only badly whatever it is I think is wild that I'm doing my best to reveal by not really hiding, though hiding. A poet can be a permanent house guest like Jimmy Schuyler. A woman can be homeless to escape her homeless mother. A white woman can get away with certain things. A woman who does not want her spare thoughts to be consumed by lip implant, rippling butt implant, wet tongue in the sushi, flat screeny gangbangs, and a suntan might, for example, choose homelessness in order to pursue with some serenity her, for example, let's call them literary researches, surveilling aristocratically only her own pathetic machinations, like one of the dogs shaped like Nazis in a guard tower in Maus by Art Spiegelman, while a countertenor and a sack butt bleat WikiLeaks, and naked men and men with hoods over their eyes and zappers on their peens quiver in citadels in which we, the United States, hid them. Yves Klein knew that walls are sad, made to immure misery. That is why he designed a house made of air. We only write because we're nudists, but not the kind you think, but also not necessarily not that kind. Art gets exhausted, which is why a temple, the idea of a temple, I need to go to a temple every now and again, and in order to have a home, I had to play a trick on myself, which is that it's a temple, this house. In a movie from the 80s, a man from California says, "My body's my temple." Okay, well now in my dreams of domestic servitude, I receive small pay. I get to go across the street to contemplate the toiletries in an Alpine 7-Eleven. Salon Selectives, Prel, Garnier, or Pert Plus. My hair will look like shit. I don't buy anything. I go back to the kitchen to fish out of drawers 3 iron candlesticks, the dark lady who rages over the family near the high vaulted hearth, where I slave over a hot stove and nothing but a dirty t-shirt, like a Thai baby in a National Geographic photograph, all gorgeous in the mufti of my total deprivation. This dark lady can only, it seems, be communicated with by me, no longer the maid, but progress, household witch, earning, after all, a salary, however tiny, hoarse whispering its deadest, most psycho old bitches, sweet-talking them down from the rafters, down out of tantrums, unthrown, unthrowable by nobody me, the inverted V of downward-facing liberty, when you have no choice but to try to have chosen what you never, never would choose. Sitting on a bench at the end of my exhausted term like a regular grown-up, I pictured myself shampooing my luxury hair in some artsy shithole, mildew streaking the torn shower curtain, lurching across the second expanse of poverty my ruined imagination could manage. Well, I guess I could join the Israeli army. Why the fuck would you want to do that? Said somebody else inside my dream head. Pretty much dead by the time they were done needing me as their slave, I started to feel kind of American. I mean, like an adult sitting uncomplaining, torso a plain physical fact over unquivering genitals, just meat on a stick with the vague sense that somewhere between lavish femininity and state violence lay a mediocre thing called liberty. Still, to be able to sleep at all is a procedure of waking. Everybody has to live somewhere, being that we are here where most of us are not welcome. Did you know transcendental homelessness was a thing? But I dreamed this dream on a physical mattress on an actual floor in a room with a door that I pay and pay for. If you write, you can forge a substance that is other than the woman of substance you are. If you do it to such a point, you can find yourself declining substance altogether. It happens. It is a danger. But there will always be the idea of a bath or a sleep in a bed or a dream in the head of a woman who is even beautiful visibly, or at least groomed, or somewhat fresh, or like that most domestic of bugs, the cockroach, dragging his ponderous suit of armor across the floor, or clean sheets when it's raining and I love you so much and I think, gimme shelter, which is a movie I've never seen. This is the last poem. So speak now or forever hold your peace. Really, seriously, like you can't come up to me at the break and say anything to me if you're too shy to say it. We're all here. All right. I know, it's been a long haul. Blue Palestine. My hymn to life. Only one grass whistles out the tooth of my horse, and the moon drops fast behind the fences, and the wheat lolls back and waits for death. I could see the sea from where I was. My mesh hat shone blue, the jagged cheek of Gibraltar, solid, sucked in the mouth and never melting, where my dog's warm underleg soothes the wet stone. I speak of it thusly, I say it thusly, I lisp its name into the curl of walls stained dark in the impression of my mouth. Only one grass whistles out the tooth of my horse, and the moon bends back, and the wheat lolls back and opens its stomach and waits for death. I soak it in my black water. It seethes in bags I've hung up among the rafters. It seethes in bags of amber and jasper, transfusions, flour liquids, and cellophane pouches streaked with goo clots of plastic soldier sun. When the pitcher is poured out the length of my tongue, and 10 vats of grease ignite in unison. Only one grass whistles out the tooth of my horse, a too tight phylactery, the moon bending back, the wheat lolling back, scroll boxes clattering on the stone, jugs of gasoline and jugs of sand. I threw my coat on the sea, the velvet sea. My coat spread, it was the blue of the top of the column of milk, it soaked embroidery, it was the ditty, 2 winds whined into the anus of night. Skating along the floor of the brook are leaves and ice. Devolving on the brook floor, it is only one little one blue shard of pale Palestine. The wineskins are pricked, goat's udders banged sore where mica lodges in the mucus house, where my velvet is sucked down, where the cheek blows thick with sleep to be brushed by the sea. Blue Palestine, wrung swan neck in oil, tasseling dirty day with rocks that fly and fly and fall and fall and fall. The moon bends back and the wheat lolls back. A cracker whitens on the tongue of the hanged man. My velvet is sucked down the sea. The seawall is chipped blue, the clock of Palestine, gulls, salt beaks, iron drums soldered shut and stuffed with salt cod, an anvil of rammed earth in the form of a baby belly button, hair raised on the hat of the imperatrix, embossed forever in her brass annal. No grass screams against the foot of my horse, no rock whinnies down the side of the sea, no scroll staves off the reeds quivering in my rib wall, and no algaes quiver, and no frogs belch out the tablet over the song of my purchase of night. Blue Palestine, red sucker bloody on the bib of the world. Blue Palestine, ice tray soaked in solid sun. Thanks.
Charles Borkhuis is a poet, essayist, and award-winning playwright. His books of poems include Alpha Ruins, Savoir-Faire, Afterimage, and Disappearing Acts, the last two from Chax Press and available here tonight. His radio play, The Sound of Fear Clapping, was aired over WNYC. He's the former editor of Theater X magazine, an experimental theater performance publication, and he was for 15 years curator of the Segway Foundation Poetry Reading Series. His plays Barely There, Present Tense, and Flipper were produced in New York in 2013. Some of Charles Borkhuis's mellifluous ponderings hark back to an earlier century, as in his Dinner with Friends, published in 1998, which begins, quote, "His body as a disappearing act, false sky inside a room of changing dimensions, where the stitches open onto an abyss between dinner and dissolution." Elsewhere, Borkhuis riffs off film noir genre language, chuffing it up with a street bravado the genre often hints at, but remains too timid to achieve. In Beyond Recall, from Savoir-Faire, he writes, quote, "I was piecing my face together from the Photoshop. I was femming my butch with daisies protruding from my skull." End of quote. Humor matches wits with eroticism, Natch, in many of the Savoir-Faire poems. Quote, "Cheery Christmas video porn sticks all the presents in the right places," end of quote. But something bigger is lurking here too, something that had been hinted at in Dinner with Friends. Quote, "Even on firm ground, eating a ham sandwich, with your eyes open, there is this missing link to leap from one I love you to the next." From his poem, Holidays. Charles will be opening his reading tonight by playing the first section from a radio play titled Foreign Bodies that was produced for NPR and aired over WBGO radio as part of the Jazz Plays series. The play was directed by Juanita Rockwell, and the performers are Bill Raymond, Francesca Rizzo, Quinn Raymond, and Dan Southern. Sit back, relax, and enter the theater of the mind's eye.
I stared at my hands till they started to float. Piano hands, cut from flesh and ivory. I hardly touched the keys. I was riding this road of light, this surge of sparks that jumped the abyss between notes. Impossible to explain. We finished the gig around 4, and I started driving north into the night. Up ahead, I saw this flicker of light growing larger till it became a ball of fire climbing up a tree. A woman was trapped in the burning car wreck. I rolled my jacket over my hands and grabbed hold of her. Somehow I pulled her out, but my jacket had caught fire. I couldn't get my hands free. Finally, I shook the burning rags off, turned back to the woman lying in the dirt. Her eyes had popped and were running down her face. Her mouth was an open cave. I dropped to my knees and buried my screaming red hands in the soft earth. Afterwards, I was sent to the burn ward. The doctor saved my hands, but they came out looking like volcanic coral. few months later, I took a job as a high school teacher. Never got the dead woman's name, but her face had melted permanently into my flesh. Took a trip to Paris 3 years ago. There I could go to clubs again, places where nobody knew me. The atmosphere was explosive and intense, but oddly distant. I saw a cute girl leaning against an archway at the club New Morning, posing with a gauloise dangling from her lips. Hi, est-ce que tu parles...
You're looking for a foreign girl, huh?
Not really.
Actually, my name is French. Catherine Broussard.
Enchanté. I'm Jonathan Led, Philly area. How about yourself? Catherine was a society girl from the Hamptons. I told her that was far enough for me. We locked into each other's eyes, and something happened. I fell in love with her from her long, shapely dancer's legs to her full French pout. She said I reminded her of someone out of a Fitzgerald novel, talented but tragic. I told her she reminded me of a character out of a Simone de Beauvoir novel. We were married a month later. Martini, very dry.
Thanks.
Well, what are you reading?
Oh, something called Dead End. A man murders his rich wife for her money, but his girlfriend dies in a car crash, and he's left with no one.
What about the money?
Oh, he's got the money, but he's depressed.
How can you read that stuff?
Who do you want me to read? Proust? His innocence is embarrassing. Faulkner? Oh, he's too seedy. Rimbaud? Too touchy.
Well, everyone's got his limitations. What's wrong, darling?
Nothing really. It's just, in Paris we were so, I don't know, happy. But now you're back to teaching, and I... Well, I mean, I can't just stay in reading mystery novels, can I?
I thought you were going to try to write.
I was. Oh, Jonathan, I need to know, do you still love me?
Of course.
Then why don't we have a baby? It's not like the doctor said you couldn't make a baby. It's just that you're a little tense right now.
I'm sorry.
It's not your fault, darling. This whole thing, it's just... We'll have to try harder, that's all. Give me a kiss.
The next day I was a jangle of nerves. Some kind of formal, constricted voice came out of my mouth during class. So, you see, the problem between the two brothers is actually...
Excuse me, Mr. Led.
linguistic.
Linguistics.
Dex's argot was from the world of jazz and drugs. Well, his brother was a math teacher whose language was clear and precise.
Maybe Coolidge meant that Dex and his brother were two parts of the same person and that...
No, Jimmy.
Okay, I'm lost now.
It's only through the missing language of music that the brothers find the true communication. Music, that medium that's so akin to silence and therefore an expression of the universal, was and is, in fact, the missing link that verbal or written language was. My head was beating like the fat boy's drum in the school band. When I got home, the place was empty. One of Catherine's suspense novels was lying open. It was about a drifter who takes a man's wife on his kitchen table when hubby's at the dentist having his tooth pulled. She clawed his face and fought him off for a moment, but when he grabbed her and pulled her towards him, her limbs grew weak. I was hit by a wave of nausea and staggered into the bathroom.
Oh, what happened?
Nerves, I guess.
I thought the doctor told you not to worry. You're only killing off your own little, marathon swimmers.
I got 1 million of them. Well, what's in the box?
Something from Paris.
You ought to make quite an impression with those heels.
They're good for your little whippersnappers. Besides, we're going out tonight.
Welcome back to The Lost End. I'm your host, Bobby Day, and I'm very pleased to announce that we have in our audience tonight one of the finest pianists to ever play here, Mr. Jonathan Led.
I stood up and the applause rolled over me like a giant surfer wave. Took me back 10 years. I had the keys in my hands then, the light touch of stepping in and out of time like it was an open door. And then the door closed forever.
Welcome back, Johnny.
I wasn't back. I was floating between worlds. Then Bobby Day announces this band, the Chaz Butler Quartet or something. I wasn't even listening. This kid gets up, must have been all of 21. The spot hit him just right. He was all cheekbones and pouty lips, tall and lanky with a big pompadour. Looked like he came straight out of somebody's B movie. He had a high little voice that sounded like his balls hadn't dropped yet.
One of our Pacific jazz recordings, My Funny Valentine.
I side-glanced Catherine and noticed she was tonguing him with her eyelids. At the break, she insisted we go up and introduce ourselves. I watched the two of them sizing each other up with little smiles that could make a T-bone sizzle. When he returns, he plays a closed-eyed ballad that sounds like he's puffing on clouds. In the middle of the tune, Catherine starts running her fingers lightly up and down my thigh. I figure it's time to split. When we get home, she's still got this glow on her. We make passionate love for the first time in a long time. I've never seen her this wild. Only problem is, as I'm making love to Catherine, I can't help thinking she's actually screwing this Chaz guy in her mind. I mean, I need her, but the closer I get, the less I feel like I'm really there. It's like I'm being erased by Chaz.
Hey, thanks for coming, Vincent. I really appreciate it. Megan, it's wonderful to be here reading at Dia. Those two radio plays, the Foreign Body and Sound of Fear Clapping, can be found on Penn Sound if you're so inclined. I'm going to read, to start off with, some poems from Disappearing Acts, which just came out this month from Chax Press. So I'm going to cut the chitty chat and go to the chase. Dead Reckoning 1, Department of Missing Persons. To each his own double, loitering inside the ruins, body echo to go, so easy to be displaced. Play back to a former self astride his wife's galloping flanks while thinking of a future self who never quite arrives. I'm speaking to you in the present, which is already a memory in this two-way mirror of sky and bone. Someone in my past is listening in, wondering if he's hearing voices. Forget the numbers. All this will pass in the time it takes to tie my shoe, or it will fester for a lifetime, whichever comes first. Peek inside the gold ring and find a ghost of lead filings under a blue flame, still dancing. Nothing is ever over. The eternal return has already arrived. Whoever was not born sufficiently will not die definitively, but hover in the subjunctive indefinitely. Words exchanged between the one who has kicked the bucket and the other who's still kicking, or the reverse. For surely one thing follows another, forever, in order. The numbers fall forth, so one must die before one is born. Or the reverse, whichever comes first. There's another part of Dead Reckoning called Only in Metaphor May We Meet. Don't talk to me of the lower body, beast, material subjugation of the soul by the sex organs. Little more than kissing cousins to the loquacious arsehole. Speak rather of the body, possessed by the praying mantis of the soul, the history of divine persecution in the name of the idea that shall set you free, but all in good time, all in good time. No one was there when I look, but turn away in their back, vacant stare from a seeing eye dog working my shadow across the stone wall. The crossing guard blows an icy blast, and the world screeches inches from my shoe. School children freeze into position as a thought bubble floats above my head. Maybe we never truly touch, and in love remain unknown. A cat crossing at the green smiles back. Only in metaphor may we meet. I'm going to jump here to a longer poem, but not that long, called Spasm. Shock to therapy, back to the spark, then jump. The silent word flicker between trees. But the keepers are door-wise to the narrow. Now they can bird-cage fingers off a shadow. Now I watched your dark flame leaving in a truck. We were so much left luggage then. I might still, hands in pockets, freeze. I might, mad boy, play me dumb, take me back upon the road, forest bridge me up again, thrashing eyes see the jackknife trout midstreaming mute inside the man, so stones throw from the moon, I might just spit. Watch me, hands shaking from this place. I can't keep words to things anymore, so objects pass in fever. I can't speak to the keepers when I thrust a glowing arm through my shadow, when I bang the floor with a boot and roll inside the words. I can only shake an empty head. Stare at the nothing in their eyes, stand motionless, sun-captured trees, so they will never know the circuitry, secret sky code lips aflame, so I may eat the sun. A trick, but thought can ignite a bird inside the skull, blossom, a little voice ago. Who's there? My silent twin curls his back against the wall and hangs on every word. I know you're there. In the tongue, repeat, no sound to die the thread between us troubled mind. They said I fell backwards, fit to floor, to think, spasm, word lock, bite, to hold on, fish flapping tail, to sky snap upwards, bending over houses, shadow of an eye, over little people looking shoreward, tiny insect cars. I float feather across the paper sky while you squat in the bone cage. They call me out, a name I scribbled in the dirt, but they can't read me. Just call them depersonalization attacks. So needle to dark rivers flow while the dead keep growing hair. I heard the keepers laugh in the corridor before lights out, heard them in the storage room sawing off patients' limbs. I've been in the closet with the broom men. I've tipped days off the wall until the word fig fell from a tree and bounced between stones. A ghost dog brought it to me. Jawbone of a loquacious relative. I have little doubt, but no bright in this light. The peaks of mountains stare. Nomadic phrases flit branch to forehead like plucked strings, but lonely, few hear the call, yet all know it, lie next to it, dream the day backwards to keep close, but its echoes sleep in stone under the flying wheel. When the curtain rises, someone turns me in like a bad bill. I'm not one of them. I walk the shadow stem. I ray the farmer in this field. I step in and out, passing eyes. Never let the mirror see my face. Stay inside the skull-tipped tongue, the song of my head wandering south. The flutter of a bird over crossed lids. The mouth opens like a jewel. Residing in his body, you may be punished, while a dark coat of wings fans across my shoulders, crank me up through the propeller-headed sky to soar in spiral gusts, hawk arcing higher, hanging off the edge of the world in a flap and drift off the silent flame before they yank the rope between my legs and I scrape through clouds to splash down under waves. Pull me back on a hook across the ocean floor to the inside, the room, to watch them burn. Wings out, back, lock the door. Never again, they said. Take your meds and straight to bed. We've learned to write backwards on a wall. Mirror a moment that turns back and forth in time. We've learned to play dead before the statues. The keeper touches us further away through a tunnel of hands. You remain in your body when what happens is not me, though we are the same. I escape from the chair, placeholder to the number. I throw myself into the empty. I climb inside the mute size of things. I walk into my outline. I disappear inside the keeper's brain, burrow deeper there until one day he hears my voice as if it were his own. We'll continue with Dead Reckoning. Echoes drawn upon a point. Why this bridge, this stone? Just to hear a plunk in time? I was swallowed by a wave for speaking out of turn. Jumped branch to branch in widening detours and digressions. Talked to a quiver in the arm, a running eye, a knock at the knees, a humming in the head. Who hears the ear in my ear? Who leaves on the twitch of a lip, takes a microphone into the forest, records the serious chewing under every leaf? And when you have left the room, who is gone? And when you have pivoted slyly down the hole, who is still with me? Caught again, misbehaving, as if thought could lean against the shoulder of a chair and curl inside the fleshy pulp of wood, spinning in the mind, neither yours nor mine, but subjectivity, sans subject, traveling the open circuit. Photo of my face reflected on a shiny black dinner plate. Other lifetimes tap me on the shoulder, no doubt, an incomplete separation at birth. So in death remain on call, as if infinity were a lost cause, as if I never left the dinner table, as if it were only possible to relive events, to act as if all this were a surprise. In other words, to pretend to live and make a show of it. I'm going to jump to the last one here, and then I'm going to read some new poems. As I talk to you, someone talks to me. Little reversals under the shell of an accident, ghosts inside the mind of others. I am what haunts and what is haunted, but is absent at its core, without a clear beginning or end. Perhaps this space between us, this life suspended in the void, was a place, only visited in dreams, but we knew how to get there. The present is always a little dead, my dear. We are already living in the afterlife. Okay, these are some new poems from an untitled book. They're all short. Nothing personal. Pronouns like us appear as interchangeable. Pebbles in a stream, the I, you, he, she, me of it, nodding in mirror rhythm with our multiples. Maybe I've been listening too long to your miniature black hole of a head, or your heart only 2 letters away that leaves a loose end like me, stumbling down an endless corridor of on-off switches. Nothing personal, you understand. You can have the facts. I'll take the rest to the coffin, thanks. So much for your antivirus protector. I found a forgotten stone on the road after 1,000,000 years underwater. Not the one with the fossil on its back, but the other one, worthless, in my pocket. It's an all or nothing situation. But inside the all, there's plenty of nothing. And inside the nothing, there's the rest of us breathing through straws. Where I come from. Where I come from, there is no there. Everyone's busy turning her insides out while simulating a tan. Where I come from, nothing matters until it's fatal. And even then, everyone knows he won't really die. There's always an undisclosed number of copies hanging around on street corners, living out different hers and hims. I don't want to embarrass anybody here. I don't want to insult you to your face. I'd rather you turn your back. That's how it's done where I come from. Everyone's roasting in his own juices. Everyone's head is skewered on a stick. Everyone's thinking it's not his head, it's the other guy's. Where I come from, there are lots of pregnant pauses. Ooh. Between life sentences, and even the shoe is on the other foot. I can imagine somebody coming in now. This is one to all of your Hitchcock fans out there. You'll know where this is from. It's called Drawing Flies. How many vacant how many vacant rooms in the eye of a fly? Or is it a full house tonight? It was code for something in a dream, which was code for something else in a movie, maybe. Isn't that a blinking motel sign up ahead? No need to register. What's in a name? The wings of a bed spread. There's something of a stuffed bird in all of us, don't you think? She's in the shower reading your thoughts. The thoughts of a fly on the wall. The thoughts of one upstairs in bed and the other one buried in the cemetery. The cars in the swamp. What more does she want? Here comes the detective's spiky shoes, his hooks and clamps, climbing the silent rock face up a staircase or a naked breast, following the splitting hairs of a clue that lead inevitably to you and the rather large insect in the fruit cellar. They say a boy's best friend is his dead mother. But you're not so sure anymore. Out on a shaky limb, the mind may stumble upon the thorny precipice of a word and lose its balance to the dizzying buzz of a harmless housefly. Of course, we can't forget Emily there. Training wheels. When is a photograph like a tombstone? And why is happiness wrapped in a riddle of inverse proportions? We all looked so cheerful in the photo with our party hats and noisemakers, perfectly balanced on the frozen rope of a smile extended into a future that never quite arrives, while the living stumble past on shaky stilts. No doubt it's necessary to compartmentalize so we can saw through the thigh bone without having a nervous breakdown, or fly the plane safely through the storm to the child awake in bed waiting for her story. Scarab-faced messenger. Enough empty sky to drown in. First words bubble and stick to the walls like fingers, like excrement, like blood. Watch yourself being watched. Attitudes put on and take off their skin. Why this eye now? A painter mumbles behind a large blue rock. A bubble-headed thought hangs in space. Something could fill it, crawl out of its casing. A scarab-faced messenger, mandibles in the ooze, should appear with the missing code so we might know what's expected of us. Recess. It's that little rattle again. Loose screws unnerving all teeth. Now hear this. The head is on the other foot. And certain unstable thoughts have started growing hair, which shows the length the heart will go for a second chance at recess. With the drip of a girl in a yellow rubber raincoat, when every color was cartoon bright, and trembling, lovesick boat on a stormy sea, totally humiliated by her no-kiss zone. I dragged a 2-ton dumpster of feelings around on my sleeve, which was necessary for an epiphany, after which I became too tough for tears, although lately that hasn't been the case. The last poem I'm going to read is called Confused. Okay, have you considered that this is all a hoax, a kind of spell you've cast upon your own sporty shoes? To think that mine flows through your finite footwear, leaving memories in matter, like the ones so-called psychics read off combs and cracked coffee cups. As if all information were recorded at various frequencies on the resonating surface of objects, as if to say, we may be projections, deeply entangled with other dimensions that are only the thinnest slice away. As if to say, this reality of hard knocks is fluted with tiny veins of mind, and that the gravity of our tears flows through empty parking lots and faces, raging rivers and mountains, and that it is the measure of stones kicked in foreheads gently knocked. As if to say that we are haunted by other versions of ourselves in morphic resonance, and that you see a pattern of unpredictable visitations from entities hovering around this very room that fit in and out of existence or hang around for months or even lifetimes for just 1 kilohertz of earthly recognition. Is that too much to ask? Okay, now I'm confused. Thank you.